Prince Charles has been cautioned by a royal expert over his political opinions as he prepares to become king. The future king of the United Kingdom must remember that as monarch, he is not meant to have a political voice, Express.co.uk has been told. It comes as reports suggest Prince Harry and Meghan Markle will not join Prince Charles on the Buckingham Palace balcony after his coronation. The Queen was surrounded by hordes of people as she waved to huge crowds along the Mall after her coronation 69 years ago. The ceremony cost £1.57 million, the equivalent of £46 million in today's money. Charles is said to want a much more scaled-back coronation, with the number of guests limited to 2,000, less than a quarter of the 8,251 at his mother's. He is preparing to put his own stamp on the firm, placing much more focus on the line of succession than currently. An important facet of being a constitutional monarch is political neutrality, but Charles has been accused of being too open about his own opinions in the past. Dr. Ed Owens, royal historian and commentator, told Express.co.uk that this is something he will have to rein in when he takes the throne. He said, "Charles comes to the throne in a very different context to when his mother acceded in 1952. Britain appears to be a much more divided and angry place than it was back then. And there are big political issues that need to be confronted, not least of which is climate change. Charles has spoken publicly on this issue for many years, so in some respects he will be the right kind of king for this moment. It remains to be seen whether he will express the kind of political opinions that he has become accustomed to expressing as Prince of Wales, because as constitutional monarch he is not meant to have a political voice." Charles came under fire for the Black Spider memos, private letters he sent to Tony Blair and several of the then Prime Minister's ministers about issues close to his heart, which resulted in him being branded the meddling prince. The royal has, however, insisted that he will refrain from speaking out on such topics when he becomes king. Speaking in a BBC documentary to mark his 70th birthday in 2018, he dismissed the notion that he would continue to make interventions as nonsense. Asked by documentary filmmaker John Bridcut about his alleged meddling, he responded, "If it's meddling to worry about the inner cities as I did 40 years ago, then if that's meddling I'm proud of it." Charles continued, "It's vital to remember that there's only room for one sovereign at a time, not two. So, you can't be the same as the sovereign if you're the Prince of Wales or the heir. But the idea, somehow, that I'm going to go on in exactly the same way, if I have to succeed, the Queen, is complete nonsense because the two situations, are completely different." When asked whether his campaigning would continue, he said, "No, it won't. I'm not that stupid." Charles' time on the throne may pale in comparison to the record-breaking reign of his mother, but it will be no less important. Ingrid Seward, author of some 18 royal books, wrote in the Eye last year, "Charles will make an excellent king for the modern age because he cares so much for his future subjects and the world that future generations will inherit." Ms. Seward did, however, admit that the future ultimately belongs to William. "Charles," she said, "will serve as a traditional king in a modern age when the pomp and circumstance of the monarchy, which he has always loved, will be less." This point was addressed by Dr. Owens, too, as he told Express.co.uk, "While Charles and Camilla might not be particularly popular, the future success of the monarchy does not so much depend on them as it does William and Kate. Charles has waited a long time to be king, but, given his age, he is unlikely to rule for a long time like his mother." Jessica King, the host of Palace Confidential, asked, "Do you think that as said this is sort of chipping away at Charles's credibility? I mean, could it get worse?" Mr. Eden said, "I feel really sorry for Prince Charles. The Queen was always going to be an extremely hard act to follow, and there'd been plenty of doubts about Prince Charles as king. He needs his sons to be supporting him and emphasizing what a good monarch he would be, and instead he is Harry launching these brickbats from across the Atlantic. I think this statement was definitely part of that, and I think there'll be worse to come. I do worry genuinely. I think that's an overstatement." He added, "I really do worry that eventually Harry will come out, perhaps, after the death of his grandmother, and come out against the monarchy altogether." During the Oprah Winfrey interview, Prince Harry made a few revelations about his estranged relationship with his father, claiming Prince Charles had grown further apart over the last few months. The Duke also claimed that the Prince of Wales stopped answering his calls ever since he stepped down from his position within the royal family. Author Robert Lacey, in his new book Battle of Brothers, analyzed the fragile relationship between Prince Charles and Prince Harry. Mr. Lacey said, "The media explanation of why Charles had stopped taking Harry's calls was all about money. The long-suffering father was apparently tired of being treated like a cash dispenser, as one royal source put it, but there were more profound issues at stake. Prince Charles has reportedly decided to slim down the monarchy by not extending the titles to Prince Harry's children that was once extended by George V since 1917. Mr. Lacey wrote, "In pursuing his own cause of the slimmed-down monarchy, Prince Charles had been making noises about limiting the number of HRHs created by George V's 1917 convention still further, thus cutting out Archie from his future princeship, and Meghan took that personally.